Hey, this is Niels Han Dynasty. How's it going, everybody? I just got this report in. Let's see. Please like, share, subscribe, be kind, helpful, and grateful, and buy some silver and some platinum. This here, this good dude tells a lot about shipping. Let me get back over here to the beginning. Turn the volume up. This is interesting because this car carrier is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean coming from China.
I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So we've been covering a lot of ship accidents here recently. The most frequent one we seem to be having is these vehicle fires on car carriers. We've covered stories like the Fremantle Highway up in the North Sea, but probably the most tragic one we covered had to deal with the motor vessel Gran Costa d'Avorio in the port of Newark, New Jersey, which resulted in the death of 2 Newark firefighters. We just covered one last month that took place in Zeebrugge in Belgium. Well, now we have this story from G Captain Malt Humphrey writing it. The U.S. Coast Guard is responding to a fire on the 600-foot car carrier Morning Midas, carrying hundreds of electrical vehicles approximately 300 miles off the coast of Alaska. The vessel departed from Yantai, China on May 26th with a destination of Lazaro Cardenas, Mexico, where it is expected on June 15th, according to Equus.
Now, check this out. You got to hear the location of where it took off from and where it's going to. It's a Chinese boat with Chinese manufactured electric vehicles, and I think it's like 800 electric vehicles and like 2,200 of their other type of vehicles. And to avoid tariffs, they're shipping them to Mexico, and then Mexico is going to ship them into the United States. You got to recall that with the new tariffs and taxes that are on China. Okay, so China might be looking to save some money by burning their own boats. They're not above that.
The 2006 Morning Midas is owned by Hawthorne Navigation out of London with management by Zodiac Maritime Limited. Here's that statement from Zodiac Maritime. Zodiac Maritime has launched an emergency response following reports of smoke emanating from its managed vehicle carrier Morning Midas. The incident occurred at 0000 UTC on 3 June in the Pacific Ocean during the vessel's passage to Lazaro Cardenas, Mexico. All crew are safe and accounted for with no reports of injuries. The vessel is loaded with around 3,000 vehicles, 800 of which are electrical vehicles. Smoke was initially seen emanating from deck carrying electrical vehicles. The crew immediately initiated emergency firefighting procedures using the vessel's onboard fire suppression systems. However, despite their efforts, the situation could not be brought under control. In consultation with the U.S. Coast Guard, all 22 crew are safely evacuated via lifeboat that have been transferred to a nearby merchant vessel. The relevant authorities have been notified, and we are working with emergency responders with a tug being deployed to support salvage and firefighting operations.
Okay, a couple things here. First off, everyone got off safely. Congratulations, good job. That rarely happens in a catastrophe fire that's unknown about on a vessel. Usually there's some injuries and deaths. So it's amazing, and I'm grateful all of them made it off alive. Second thing is they're already planning salvage, which means the insurance company, as soon as you do a salvage rights on a maritime vehicle, it's been written off 100% on insurance companies. So this happened 2 days ago, and the insurance company already wrote it off as a total loss. Interesting. That's speedy. If anyone has a boat, you'll know that's a very, very speedy insurance write-off.
Our priorities are to continue safety of the crew and protect the marine environment.
What's up, Jay?
We would like to thank all parties involved. Morning Midas is a Liberian-flagged pure car and truck carrier PCTC built in 2006. She is managed by London headquartered Zodiac Maritime. Next, we have the statement from the U.S. Coast Guard District 17. The Coast Guard is responding to a vessel fire approximately 300 miles south of Adak. Watchstanders at the 17th Coast Guard District Command Center received a distress call
That's
Tuesday
an
at approximately
international waters,
3:15
by the way.
p.m., reporting a fire aboard the cargo ship Morning Midas, a 600-foot UK-flagged cargo vessel. UK flag? Come on, Coast Guard. You know this is a Liberian-flagged vessel with 22 crew members aboard and reportedly carrying several thousand vehicles. Watchstanders immediately issued an
Now, see, they got that plane flying around taking pictures. It's probably a Coast Guard plane assaying the damage so that way they'll know what assets to send out there to take care of the fire. Does that look like a boat that's, I mean, it just, nothing adds up to, in my opinion, about this.
urgent marine information broadcast requesting assistance from vessels in the vicinity of Morning Midas. 3 Good Samaritan vessels responded to the incident. Watchstanders also diverted the crew of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Monroe to the area, directed the launch of a C-130J Super Hercules aircrew from Coast Guard Station Kodiak, and positioned an MH-60T Jayhawk helicopter in Adak. All 22 crew members aboard the Morning Midas evacuated the ship aboard a life.
Ask yourself one question. It's in international waters. It's a Chinese vessel, totally Oriental owned, and all those assets we sent out. The amount of money that company's going to get for the insurance for those 3,000 cars probably is going to come about the same amount of money that it cost the American government to send all those rescue vehicles out there.
Raft and were subsequently rescued by the crew of motor vessel Casco Helios, one of the Good Samaritan vessels on scene, with no reported injuries. The status of the fire is currently unknown, but smoke is still emanating from the vessel. You can see it coming from the stern of the vessel in this image taken by the Coast Guard. This is from Rear Admiral.
Does that look like a vessel that you should have abandoned the whole ship, gotten all of the crew members off of? Really? I mean, I wasn't in the Navy, I was in the Army, but man, that's just striking that they did that. It just seems, it brings up questions for me.
Megan Dean, the commander of Coast Guard 17th District, quote, "As the search and rescue portion of our response concludes, our crews are working closely with the vessel's parent company, Zodiac Maritime, to determine the disposition of the vessel. We are grateful for the selfless actions of the 3 nearby vessels who assisted in the response and the crew of motor vessel Casco Helios, who helped save 22 lives. Right now, Casco Helios is showing its destination as the Panama Canal. I envision they will drop that crew off before that." The press release concludes, "The Morning Midas is estimated to have approximately 350 metric tons of gas oil and 1,530 metric tons of very low sulfur fuel oil on board. They are also reportedly carrying a total of 3,159 vehicles, with 65 being fully electrical vehicles and 681 being partial hybrid electrical vehicles. This is based on reports to the Coast Guard and is subject to change pending the development of any new information." It appears in these photos that the crew had abandoned ship as sun was setting. They probably wanted to get off the vessel to prevent having to find them at night. What's interesting to note is you can see the port lifeboat still in its cradle, and the Coast Guard makes note that they went off the vessel not by lifeboat, but by life raft. All right, let's break down what we think may have happened on board the vessel. Electrical vehicles on fire? Get the hell off the boat. That's it. I mean, there's no other response from merchant mariners than that. EV fires are the worst fires to fight. I am a firefighter, been a firefighter for 25 years, still a captain on my volunteer fire department. EV fires are very simple. Just get them out of the way. Protect the exposures, protect everything else. You are not putting them out. They're going to burn until those lithium-ion batteries complete their thermal runaway and dispel all their energy. Remember, lithium.
I wonder what this is going to do for the electric car and the electric battery industry.
Lithium-ion doesn't need oxygen. You can bury that in the ocean. It's still going to keep burning. And we're going to talk about the measures that this crew took to prevent the spread of the fire on board and what this means going forward. This is the motor vessel Morning Midas, a very typical PCTC, pure car and truck carrier that we see out there. 6,000 vehicle capability. Now that's 6,000 standard size vehicles. So if it carries larger vehicles or it's not fully loaded, it'll carry less. We know this vessel is carrying 3,000. You'll see the ship has a side port ramp. You can see it being kind of extended here a bit. And then there's a larger stern ramp on the vessel. The best way to envision a car carrier is a parking deck, a 13 to 14 story parking deck. Here's a good cutaway. It shows you vehicles being loaded up that stern ramp here on the starboard quarter, and then up the starboard side ramp. And what you have is a series of decks. And these decks could be absolutely bumper to bumper full of vehicles. And when you have a fire take place on board these ships, the cars are restrained with fabric straps. They're ratcheted down, kind of basically safety straps on the tires. And as fires outbreak, those straps burn away, and you can get the free movement of vehicles on the deck as the ship rolls. There's a good diagram of about a 6,000 car PCTC. You'll see this ship just has the stern ramp here on it, but you'll see the layout. Basically, the decks run the entire length of the vessel. Below the waterline, you'll have some watertight protection, but above the waterline, those decks will run the length of the vessel. And the ramps allow you connect to each of them. So the crew is located up here on the very top deck. This is where all the crew quarters are, where they would eat. The bridge up here, up forward, and back aft here, down at the bottom, is the engine room. The engine is all the way back aft. This way you can maximize all the space on here for vehicles. Now you can close these decks off and seal them by lifting the ramps up, by sealing the watertight and airtight doors. There's a ventilation system in here so that when you run internal combustion engine vehicles, you can be changing out atmospheres in here. Now, in time of fire, what you would do is segregate out these decks into zones. And these individual zones here can be sealed off. You can seal the decks, you can seal the hatches, you can secure ventilation, and if necessary, flood the compartment with CO2. On board the ship, you'll have a compartment like this full of CO2 canisters, and you have the capability to dump the CO2 into those decks, into those segregated zones, to knock down the oxygen levels in the compartment to prevent combustion and fire from happening. The problem you have is electrical vehicles. If you have a fire on a deck with electrical vehicles, you'll seal it off, you'll secure the ventilation, secure access to the area, and flood it with CO2. It doesn't put the fire out. It does not put the thermal runaway that is taking place in those lithium-ion batteries. However, what it does do is it limits the expansion of that fire over to potentially other vehicles, and it prevents the vehicles themselves, the material, the plastics, all the other material, from burning, but you will not stop the thermal runaway that is taking place with those lithium-ion batteries. And there is nothing possible to be done to do that. There is no way to segregate it. You can't dump these vehicles over the side. You just can't.
That was my
and
first
that's
thought.
why abandoning ship at this point is the best thing for the crew. And this has been a feature problem that we have with shipping electrical vehicles on board. Understand, the interior of a car carrier is claustrophobic. To give you an idea, here's a video shot on board a car carrier. It just shows you how packed they are. Take that car deck that you normally park in, but put cars everywhere, bumper to bumper, as close as you can, and that is the position you find yourselves in. Moving even between the decks is narrow because of the ladderways associated. It's not like you can get in there with firefighting hoses and actually fight these fires. It is absolutely a unique environment if you've never been in there, where you don't have vehicles. You have these big open space decks. These are the ramps. It is a massive, massive area, and when it's fully full of vehicles and cars and trucks, it is just a massive fire load that you have to deal with. Go ahead and hop over here to marine traffic. Here is the...
That makes me wonder why they didn't do a better job of actually making the boat that carries these cars for safety. I guess greed outweighed them.
The vessel smack dab in the middle of the North Pacific on that big great circle sailing coming from East Asia all the way across and then heading down to Mexico. So the vessel that's providing assistance is this vessel right here, Casco Hellas. That is the vessel that we assume picked up the crew from the lifeboat. Here's the past track of the vessel coming out of China. through the Straits of Tsushima, between Honshu and Hokkaido Island, and out into the North Pacific. Here's the track of Morning Midas. You'll see weather was fairly good in and around the area, about 12 knots, pretty calm, which is good for them. They were on track, heading at a speed of about 14 knots. This is 3 June, right around 2200 hours UTC time. Right when you hit roughly around 2300 UTC is when the vessel stops, starts drifting. Here's COSCO Helios coming in at 15.5 knots, container ship. It's going to respond when you send out a distress signal, a mayday on your VHF. All ships in the area have to respond. COSCO Helios comes into that position to provide the assistance. You'll see it starts to follow along with the Morning Midas. Mare Sydney is going to sail through the area. It's obviously not needed. The COSCO Helios is providing the assistance in the area.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop that. Let me get here to William's question. How many years okay. First year you'll see it, but see, check this out, William. When I make these statements, I'm coming from a point of someone who actually wants to work and wants to achieve things and wants to do things, not someone who doesn't want to do it and wants to be on what will be a UBI. Because even if you look at it from a religious standpoint, even in the Bible, it says in the end times, there's going to be a lot of soulless people. Well, if you're looking to save those people and get them jobs, good luck, buddy, because even the Bible says don't waste your time on it. So I'm not talking about the lost souls. The lost souls are lost. You can't do it. You can cry for them. You can bring up talking points about them. You can be a politician for them and get lots of votes. But to change them, that's not going to happen. I'm talking to the people who actually can bring about change and modify their lives to improve and increase them. And those people, robotics will benefit. Yes. Think of it like this. Okay, William, if you're in a waiting room and you're there because, there's 12 people all doing computer stuff and not one of them's helping you. And you're thinking, why am I paying for all these people not to help me? Well, they'll be robots. So you won't be paying people to. You won't be paying them at all. Your expense will go down. You'll still have the same waiting time, but you'll have better service because they won't be improperly categorizing your documentation numbers as they do now. So there's going to be lots of improvements. But for the lost souls, the people out there, the junkies, the people out there selling women for money, those people, no, their benefits, they won't have no benefit. So yes, it'll benefit people who see the possibilities and want to increase and improve their lifestyles and our world. For those people that don't want to see that, no, it won't improve them. So we can have a philosophical debate on whether or not those people that don't want to be saved should be forced to be saved and should be forced to be brought into the economy. Then we can talk about throwing away our futures, because when you try and help people that don't want help, you're going to die with them. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people left behind by choice. There's nothing you can do about that. You can lead a horse to water, but if it chooses not to drink, it'll die of thirst. Nothing you can do about it except accept. You have to accept that there's going to probably be at least 1/3 to half of the population that doesn't want to be saved. And if you can come to that acceptance, then you'll realize, hey, wow, let's get back to religion. 1/3 of the angels are devils. Holy cow. So it can be presumed that 1/3 of humanity will be devils. So if you're wasting your time trying to convert a devil, you're going to go to hell trying to convert that devil. Don't waste your time. The Bible even says so. Conversation over. Yes, it'll be very beneficial for those people who aren't devils. There you go. People who don't want to go out and feed the cows in the morning. Hey, their life's going to get easier. Old man's not going to have a broke back when he's 50 years old from out there freaking milking the cows or doing whatever they got to do now. All those tasks that are killing us slowly over time. Of course, you haven't reached there yet, I guess, because you haven't got those aches and pains from having to do this work. Your life will be made easier. I'm 57. I wake up in the morning with a hard time getting out of bed because of my back. I got to do stretches before I can get out of bed because of 30 some years doing iron work. If something else would have taken that job, I'd have been forced to do something else. My back might not be hurting right now. So is that good or bad? Yeah, I don't know. If a robot would have had that job, I would have done something else. My back wouldn't be hurting right now and affecting my life every day of my life for something I did to live. So could it be said that they'll make you make better choices? Hey, there's a perspective to look at. So as long as we don't keep perceiving evil in everything as 100% evil, it'll be good. But if you want to perceive everything to be evil, yeah, no, it's going to go to hell. The robots are going to take us over. They're going to kill us all, and we're not going to be here in 3 weeks. Humanity's going to not exist, so we don't have to worry about it. We'll all be dead. Hey, there's the evil side of it. And hey, you know what? Some dumbass human thought it would be a good idea. Wow, how stupid. There's got to be someone out there that fucking stupid. So hey, there you go. There's that argument. No, yes, there's evil out there. There's always going to be evil out there. Evil brings bad. Yes, everything's going to be bad. No, because there's also good out there. Only people who experience the good are the people who see the good and emulate that good and throw the stone in the water, the good stone, not the bad stone. If you keep thinking negative thoughts, you know what happens? I showed that show a couple days ago, Chris Langan. He explained it out in layman's terms as you can, what spirituality and God is. If you want go back and watch that show, you'll understand. Be good, okay? What's up, Pete, and everyone I missed? No, William. Evil existed because the angel of light, God's number one dude, made a choice, and we have to live with it. It's not on us. Our in particular choices give us the choice of good or evil. The evil was made by someone else's choice, named now we know as Lucifer, but before he was Lucifer, he was known as, I think, Michelangelo, the angel of light, So Archangel Michael, he's the one who did it, bro. You need to put blame on the right entity when it comes to evil. So maybe evil only exists because the angel of lights made it so. And we have to deal with the ramifications of his rock that he threw in the water of evilness, and that all that pond water and the ripples out of that evil. Those are the effects we have to have. That's the effects of good versus evil. You throw the evil stone, a lot of evil things happen. That's why I'm a big purveyor of throwing the good stone and making those ripples of water that go out good. They're not going to be as big as the Prince of Light, aka Satan's stone. But if you throw a million smaller stones of good, you can match one archangel's evil stone. Yeah, we must disagree because I'm not Michael. I'm not the angel of light. I didn't create evil, bro. I was born into an evil situation, not of my doing. So the responsibility lies on the one who made it. That would be God's right-hand man, Satan. And then you have to understand, holy shit, God is everything. Not just because you want him not to be evil. No. He is everything. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He's the omnipotence. Again, you need to go back and watch that show I did a couple days. You'll get a better understanding of how awesome God is. And yes, that includes evil. And if you don't believe me, go to the Bible and read Old Testament about the walls of Jericho and read what God said. Go around 7 days blowing horns and kill every man, woman, child, and animal. Well, that's a good person, isn't it? No, that's showing the extent of his power. We just don't see it that way because we live under a different set of rules that he gives us. That doesn't make him any less. That makes us less, not him. Oh, hell no, Chad. I'm not even close, man. All I do is I try and present positivity. That's all. Because everyone's different. Everyone sees things different. Everyone perceives things different. But again, if you go back to that show with Chris Langan on it, showed last live stream, 2 live streams ago, minute number, I think it starts at 30 or 35 of the show. I bring him on. He explains out for a human perception, an understandable layout of what omnipresence of God is in our lives. He is consciousness. We are consciousness. Everything. Consciousness isn't good or evil. It is upon the person who has the consciousness, or the entity that has the consciousness, to choose free will, for which God gave us. Jesus didn't die on the cross and say, nope, you have no free will now, you'll follow me. No, we still have free will. That's the problem. And anytime you have free will, well, you have people that'll freely choose the wrong path and want to take many people with them. That's where we come up with saying, misery loves company. It's amazing how all these sayings come into play and everything if you just have the right perspective on good versus evil. And it's not a good versus evil. It's personal choices in life. Because here's a good versus evil for you. You got a dude with a gun holding a gun to 5 babies' heads. You have an option. You can kill him from behind because you're behind him. You can kill him. You can shoot him in the back of the head, i.e. murder, to save those kids. Or you can wait till he kills a couple of them to make sure he's going to kill them before you do it. Are you evil for murder? Or is it good to kill that person? Holy shit. I guess it's in the perspective, huh? And there are so many trillions of perspectives out there happening and occurring daily that give us the freedom of choice to be good or evil. There you go. Yes, the unconscious has free will as well. As a matter of fact, your unconscious is probably 90% more powerful than your conscious mind in the perception of reality around us. Because you got to think about it again. Do you consciously tell your heart to beat even while you're asleep? Do you consciously tell yourself to breathe even while you're asleep? Do you consciously tell your blood to flow even though you're asleep? No, you don't do none. You don't even know how to do that consciously. Subconsciously, you're an expert at it because it's happening right now and you don't even know how to do it. So obviously we have two people inside us, our conscious self and our subconscious self, if you want to break it down in that mannerisms. Or there's only one of us and we only control 10% of it and we think we know 100% of it, in which case we're all walking idiots. I prefer to look at it like that. Exactly. It depends on the perspective and the situation at the time. Nothing is permanent, good or evil. I mean, it goes back to an argument I made a long time ago of, yeah, Hitler was evil, but the medical knowledge and the hundreds of millions of people saved off of his evil experiments benefited more than it didn't benefit. Truth is permanent. Good and evil are also part of that truth. So they're permanent too. And free will is part of that truth. So it's permanent too. Everything comes under that, and it's all permanent. But what's not permanent about it is what we do in 2 minutes from now or 30 seconds from now. See, that's where the free will and choice comes in. That's not permanent. Actually, yeah, it is predetermined. There's about 1 billion predeterminations of your future every millisecond that you go through your life. I explain it as an infinite number of bubbles of reality in front of you, expanding infinitely up and down and left and right. And every choice you make consciously determines which path your conscious self brings into reality for your existence at that second. How's that one for you? Yeah, Carl Jung says a lot of things. And that's one perspective of the way to break it down for understanding. It's all a perception. Oh, we don't know nothing about the truth. We know minuscule amounts about the truth. We're always searching. No one knows. Well, I mean, we're still changing up our mind on the date of the Big Bang and where we are in the universe. What's up, Hunter? We don't even know. The newest thing I heard from from the Voyager spacecraft is after 45 years, it's like broken through, not the heliosphere, but some sphere that surrounds our galaxy or universe or something. Not universe, but our area of space. And apparently, our little pocket of space that we can see immediately around us has a void of like 12 billion light years of nothingness before we get to the next area of space where they have physical objects, stars, space dust, stuff like that. So we're like off in a bubble in the far region of the Milky Way, separated by a vastness of vacuum dark matter before you get, in other words, right now, Voyager just left the little bubble that we're in, and it'll be like at the speed it's going a couple 100 million years before it hits the next area where there's planets and stars. That's how big the void is. And they've determined that the Big Bang, instead of being like 12 billion years, because of this void discovery of the distance between the light that we perceive to be at one distance, was definitely wrong. Now they're saying the Big Bang probably happened like 24 to 25 billion years ago. So we're still learning truth. It's the truth of the time. Exactly. To your own self be true. And that brings me back to Chris Langan. And he says, all relationships with God are personal for you on your personal journey on this planet with 9 or 8 billion other people. And that's how you can have a personal relationship with God, not by any religious means, but to your own self be true. And that's morality. And that's the choice of free will of good or evil. And what your soul is determines your choice majority of the time. Again, circumstantially, you can throw up all kinds of weird circumstances. You're at a bank, you have a chance to save everybody and not have people get killed, but you have to kill someone, but you're a good person. Do you do it? Wow, okay. Yeah, of course I would do it, because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. In a situation that I determine at a time to be an evil versus good scenario, I will always perceive to err on the side of the good. But that's just my perception. It could be reversed. If you walk into that scene and you don't know exactly who the good or the bad guy is, you could be acting in evil with good intent. That's why they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Again, we go back to all these sayings that are around for a long time. They're around for a reason, because smarter people than us have already gone through all these conversations. All we have to do is accept them, and not accept one point in time in the philosophical journey, because it's always changing. So truth is permanent, but your perception of it changes with knowledge. But yeah, let's see here. I wonder how long the Gold K Tel record on Voyager will keep playing. I was totally against, and I know this sounds crazy because I was only like 12 when it happened. I was totally against sending that thing with all that information about humanity, because we have a perception of how things are. But if you think about things and we find out more things about how volatile it is out there, why the hell would we want to go beyond our own small little solar system? It is so daggone dangerous out there. So many things can go catastrophically wrong with whatever device you're in to go out too far. If you're not close to where someone can help you, you're a goner. And there are so many things that we don't know out there about all kinds of things. We don't even know things to not know things about. I mean, if we stay in our own, we got more than enough to explore in our own solar system with 8 planets. We should be here for a good millennium before we even think about going further out than that. There's lots of different philosophies, and no one is right or wrong. until we die and pass on, and we find out what is. And then we look back and say, well, damn, I wasted my time doing that. And I should have been, hold on, wait. I was put down there to have fun and just follow a simple set of 10 basic rules and just have fun because it's only for a limited amount of time. Now I'm here for an eternity, and I can only look back at the mistakes I made while I was supposed to be just enjoying life, looking at the views, feeding the animals, being good and positive. That's my perspective. Because I know when I die, I'm going somewhere else. My essence is going somewhere else. And what that somewhere else is, I don't know. But I'm hoping it's obviously going to be different than here. And I'm hoping that this just isn't a little playground for us to enjoy, that we've screwed up ourselves, this reality. But that's probably the fact. That's why I try and have fun. I don't want to be bogged down and not be able to enjoy my feet on the grass, my feet in the water, climbing up that rock, sleeping under that tree in a campsite, obviously. You know, I want to experience things. I think that's more what life's about. Everything else that doesn't allow that to happen was manifested by us. Wars, shit like that. It's manifested by us as humans. It's not the natural order of things. We weren't put here to be warriors. We were put here to exist, have a good life, have fun. And that's my base premise on this plane of existence. Now, that word means something different to everybody. I knew this one cat when I was in 7th and 8th grade. He was at the private school with me. His IQ wasn't out of his mind, but he had a different philosophy of life. I was more about having fun. And he was more about learning science. That boy was serious about learning science, man. I was about the only person he could talk to in school because I had a basic understanding even back then of what he was talking about. I just wasn't interested in it. I wanted to go play basketball or something like that instead. But he was hooked on the intellectual and continuing that. And I was like, dude, that's going to be later in life. You're going to get bogged down with that shit. Enjoy your life now. So I've always gone on that principle. I don't know what happened. His name was Mark something other. I don't know, man. I see a lot of things going on right now in the Pacific Ocean for these new modules of rare earth elements, which no one talks about, which America owns 80% of. The rest of the world's mining the 20% that we don't own. And America put a pause for 3 years on mining that because they want to see the devastation done by other countries to the ecosystems and the biospheres down there created by these minerals that we discovered that create oxygen and hydrogen 3,000 meters under the sea. So, you know, there's got to be some unique bio life down there, biodiversity that we don't know about. And anytime I hear that, I think of the movie with Sean Connery, Medicine Man, where it has this, he plays a doctor down in the rainforest, and he discovers a cure for cancer because of the rainforest and the diversity of the rainforest and the uniqueness of it. And I'm thinking, well, you know, if there's creatures living 3,000 meters under the water with all that pressure, lack of light, and everything we thought we knew about how life is, they're proving us wrong. Maybe we ought to take about a decade or two and research them and see what kind of positive medicines and research can come from that before we just pick up those rocks and burn them up for fuel or whatever the hell else they're making with them. And I think that's what America's doing. That's why we claimed, and I did a video on this when we claimed the land under the ocean that those rocks and minerals are on. America owns 80% of that. So when you hear about people doing mining for those rocks in the Pacific, those rare earth elements, they only have access to 20% of them. If they take any more than that, they're stealing American resources. And we're not mining them. We put a 3-year moratorium on that. Yeah, and the KJV Bible was published in the 1600s, 1648, I think. And the only reason it was published was because of the printing press. was made available around that time period, and it was to be uh, before that time. You had to go to church because only the scribes at the church had a Bible or any other books of knowledge at that time. So around that time in history, a lot of knowledge was lit out to the people in the form of the printing press and being able to mass produce literature for more than 5 or 6 people a week to get a new copy of. Yeah, 1611, right on. I knew it was 16 something. I thought it was 48. Maybe 48 was when the printing press upgraded to mass production because they had different versions of it that took a long time to do, even though it was quicker than scribes sitting there. And now there's another thing you got to think of for those 40 or 50 years before the printing press was invented, how they, after the Nicene Council came up with the Bible that King James decided that was going to be the Bible for everyone, they had scribes, just regular people, and they had to mass produce the Bible, and they did it by writing it. So they had to perfectly match the writing style, all the little pigments, dots, and everything. Now think of it: you have 100 people trying to exactly replicate by hand a manuscript. Yeah, humans aren't perfect, and their interpretations back then of words weren't nearly as refined from the documentation they were getting those words from and translating them into English have changed enough to bring them. Like, for example, the Red Sea. The word red is actually reed from Hebrew translated to English, Old Hebrew into English. And there is actually a marshy land area over in there where the Moses split the sea, the Red Sea. See, because reed can be interpreted as red or the Reed Sea, and how they interpreted it was the Red Sea and not the Reed Sea. So it's possible that through that misinterpretation of that one word, oh yeah, in Old Hebrew, does it mean that? In what language? Because every language is comes from different meanings and is brought about in different ways. Like the English language is a bastardization of lots of languages before us. We use words that are French and Spanish, and we call them English, but we more refined the definition of that word when we came up with English. What's up, Emerald? As we segue to the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's another good thing about, but we also must watch out for, is AI. AI is doing some dramatic work with those Red Sea Scrolls. I don't know if you guys know the condition and how we've had to interpret the Red Sea Scrolls and how they could have been interpreted improperly and be interpreted better through technology. Those scrolls are rolled up like a scroll for 1,500 years. They kind of started to not petrify, but go through the process of diminishing to where if you started to unroll them, they would disintegrate. So how they've had to read them in the past is partially opening them up and then like x-raying both sides to try and put to get reconfigure the words to make it. Yeah, AI is we have to trust its interpretation. That's the problem. But what AI does is it can virtually unwrap it without touching it and perceive from what it is through the layers where the ink is on each layer. It can do shit quickly that would take us a long time to do. So and also they found another scroll like 10 years ago that I haven't heard anything about. Of course you can't, Jeffro, because we speak American. We don't speak English. and the acceptance or denial of it, and perspective of that in particular scenario that you're applying the truth to. Because, and I was going to show this one thing, but I decided not to because I figured it'd be too controversial. But it depends on your perspective of, for you to have a true relationship with God, you have to give up everything else, everything materialistic, everything. If you want to be a disciple, and only the disciples can really understand. And disciples are people who give up everything for the cause. A disciple in any cause is known in the, I think, vocabulary. We can look it up, see what disciple is. They're the ones that, and you know, they're just, religion is a manipulated thought process for control. I'll say that right now. We've all been fed a whole crap load of not full sentences from documents, and then people have gone off and made interpretations of that, and it's been accepted. That's as broad as I'll say. You can go to the sayings all you want. I'm still talking about realities. I mean, and the reality is interpretations of the original versions and the documentations of all original versions are not what we have right now. And what that tells me, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. What that tells me is other people through history made choices for all of us to fervently believe in. And I understand that, and I understand humanity, and I don't deny anyone that. But my studies go beyond that to where I see the Bible as a kindergartner's introduction into spirituality. And that's why everyone's into it, because it's just so basic. If you want to get deeper, well then you can't live in Hollywood, you know what I'm saying, and think you're going to get deeper into it like the Beatles or something like that. All you're going to get is publicity and a lot of drugs. They didn't get nowhere with their spiritual run, but they did gain a lot of popularity. Was it truthful? I don't know, but they made a lot of money and they're still popular today, and we talk about them. So eventually, through that alone, it becomes truth. Is it really truthful? No. So again, perspective. Everyone has a mission down here, good or bad. And that mission might be as simple as you're only here for one day when you're 72 to open a door for someone younger and throw them a smile, because that'll change their whole life, and that'll be either the next Hitler or the next Ronald Reagan. And because you threw them a smile, it changed them to the positive light, and that was your mission on this planet, so you die. It could be that simple. No one knows what your mission here for God is. What I do know is everyone has a mission, and we have free will to not take it. And in not taking it, you always come up with, reasons, explanations, and all those are cop-outs to spirituality. But it follows religious doctrine. And there's the difference. Religion is of man for man. Spirituality is not. So entwining the two only confuses people. If you really want to know God, become spiritual and forget religion. Because religion is not God. It's not Jesus. It's none of that. It was made of man long after his death for control, power, and money. And that's why the Vatican is the richest place on earth with all the artifacts in the world. Not because they're Catholic and Christian. Because Christian, what is it? Share knowledge? Christians? Why are they hiding all the knowledge? They're doing the exact opposite of what Christians are supposed to do. Spiritual people are supposed to do. The Catholic religion is doing the exact opposite. So how can it be good? Yet they're still teaching millions and billions of people their thought process. So perception of truth can be maligned and then believed as time goes on, is what I'm saying. The basis is each and every one of us determines our path free will that God Almighty gave us. He gave us a book to follow that'll help us freely choose the proper way to go in a format of living your life that He would like you to freely choose for yourself to honor Him. Whether you do that is your free will. You know, if that's their mission, God didn't say so in the Bible. He didn't let any of us know, so He must only let the Pope know that what the mission of the Catholic Church is. And the last thing I know about God is He didn't individualize and make anyone more special than someone else to carry out His mission. I do know Satan does that for power, control, and greed. But that's just my vision. I could be wrong. But the Vatican does have a lot of political power, and politics has nothing to do with spirituality, but yet they have a lot of it. They have their own city. They have a no deportation. No military can enter their city. No one can touch anyone that enters that city. They can protect as many pedophiles as they want from any country they want. You can't do anything to them because they're godly. And they can have all the homosexual priests there that have been convicted of child molestation, and God said it's okay if you think they are spiritual. I think they are men and have freely chosen to take their position and malign it for their own will, using spirituality of Christianity and Catholicism as a cover. And if you know anything about human psychology, you will know that over time, everything comes corrupt. I'm looking at my union. My union wasn't created less than 100 years ago, and my union's corrupt. It didn't even take 100 years for it to become freaking riddled with corruption. So I can't see how humans throughout history from 1600s till now, that they were all not corrupted. Especially since I know the history of the Catholic Church and the French king. Was it June 13th or January 13th, February 13th in 1308 or 1311, when they turned against the Templars and murdered spiritual men so that they could gain power and money? Because both those organizations, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, and the French country, the king, owed the Templars too much money. This is proven fact. You cannot deny this. So the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, falsely accused people and murdered them and stole all of their shit. And they're still hiding it from us to this day. It's all about perspective, I guess. Oh, no, but since then, they've become godly and Christian and spiritual. Yeah, that's why they released that information to us. Or are they still hoarding power and money? Now, I'll tell you this, the last pope that died, before he died, about 3 years before he died, about 4 or 5 years before he died, he called for all of the parishes to send back all the religious relics and all of the money and gold back to the Vatican. And that came after a decision of the courts down in LA against the Southern Catholic Diocese to pay $4.2 billion in retribution for child molestation. The Catholic Church, after that settlement, pulled back all their money and wealth from all of their dioceses throughout the world to protect it from being sued for the wrongdoing of their Catholic preachers. These are facts if you want to check them out. Yeah, court documents, bro. Court documents, and the Pope himself putting out a dictate calling back for all the religious relics and gold to be brought back to the Vatican. So everyone has their theories about Catholicism, religion, and everything else. That's why it's personal. And it's based, and we are judged off of our personal knowledge. Not everyone has the knowledge I have, so you won't be held accountable for the knowledge I have. I won't be accountable for the knowledge you have, because I have a personal relationship. You should have a personal relationship. Chad, Will, Jeffro, everyone should have a personal relationship. Personal means it's yours, not mine. So you'll be judged personally, not by what I think or say or feel or do. because I am not God and I am not you. I will be judged off of my personal feelings and how I did freely act upon my knowledge that I gained through my doings in my life personally. It's not shared. It even says so. It's just everyone denies that. Oh no, religions are gathering. Yes, religion is. Spirituality is personal. God even said so. He wants a personal relationship. He doesn't want a relationship with you and all your cousins and your friends drinking beer. Hey, this is the correlation of me. No, that's not what he wants. He wants a personal one-on-one. Period. The end. No argument. That is what God wants. How we get there, how we believe, feel, learn, it's all personal. And that's why they say, judge not lest you be judged. No one has the right to judge anyone, only God. And he's already stated his criteria. So it's no arguments. All we argue over is how people personally are acting through history and the documentation of those personal actions. Oh, it's not a charged opinion. No charged opinions here. You can, and I'm not going to show documentation because, again, if I show you, you won't believe it because I know obviously I'm lying. But you know, if it interests you that you think that I'm lying, research it, prove me wrong, and you'll find out everything I just said is 100% true. The Vatican, Southern California Diocese, got sued for $4.2 billion because of the multitude upon multitude of child molestation charges against them. And shortly thereafter, there's documentation for this too. You can go back and research it. It takes time of your life. Personally, you'll have to take time out of your life to figure this out, how to research it and how to get this information. But it is out there. The Pope called for all the relics and gold to be brought back to the Vatican. Now, why would he do that after they just lost a lawsuit for $4.2 billion? Why? Because they're not concerned about money. No, that's why they always ask for it, because they're not concerned about it. Interesting. Yeah. Religion is to be used by good or evil, depending on the human in charge. If that human decides personally to take that religion to hell, congratulations. And dude, don't get me started on Islam or Buddhism. All of them are wrong. And all of them are right. Ain't that cool? Yeah, because that is the truth. All of them are wrong and all of them are right. It's good and evil. There's no separation. It's all one. It's just the reality that we're forced to live in by choices of others. That's all. And that is the degradation of what God wanted for our lives here on earth. That's why he made it perfect in the Garden of Eden. He didn't have bankers. He didn't have lawyers. He didn't have cops. He didn't have judges. He didn't have politicians. He didn't have none of those things because there was no control. All of those things mean control, along with every religion. It means control. Heck, the word Islam, the definition means submission, control. I mean, how blatant does it have to be? It's all about control. And that's what God's against. He doesn't want anyone controlling. He controls you by your free will to allow him to, your freedom of choice to allow him to. That's why I say be kind, helpful, and grateful. Make yourself available for him to use you as miracles. That miracle could be as easy as opening a door for someone and smiling at them. It could change their whole perspective from the day. Yes, it's established. It's established. It's 100% established. It's just everyone's in particular definition of that truth and where it starts is not established because it's personal. And that's why I can't judge that statement and you can't judge my reading of that statement because it's personal. That's why I say you read the Bible today. Hold on, let me rephrase this. You read the Bible, one passage of the Bible when you're 10 years old. You get one meaning out of it. If you read it 20 years later and you get the exact same meaning out of it, something's fucked up. You ain't done the right thing in your life because you're supposed to grow and gain knowledge. And as you gain knowledge, you change perspectives, which means the knowledge that you read, you see and perceive differently. And if that doesn't happen, that means you've had no growth. You've been stagnant. You got mosquito larvae all over you. That is not what God wanted. That's why you're supposed to constantly read your Bible, because at different points in your life, depending on what happened to you, you will get different meanings from the same words. But it's personal. I can't read it to you and you get that concept. You have to do it. Personal. As long as the water's flowing and you're not staying in that stagnant pond, it's all good. Well, yes, there are, Chad. I actually brought up a version 2 or 3 days ago in my live stream of a version of the Christian Bible that existed before the Roman Church even became Roman Church, before Rome even accepted Christianity. This group of people were accepting persecuted Christians. So you remember the cathedral and all the Colosseum and all these Christians being thrown in because they were persecuting Christians. You know where they ran to? The only Christian place on the world. You know where that was? That had already accepted God while the Romans were killing the Christians? Ethiopia. And they have a Bible. It's not like ours. It has 66 of the same books, but theirs has 88. Now you'll see the control of Western society being brought into the world. Now, you can also say, well, God said the book is the book and that's all it should be. Okay, which book? The 88 book version or the New King James 66 book version? Because the 66 book version strongly pushes you have to belong to a religion. But yet in the Ethiopian version, one of their 22 extra books is called the Gospel of Thomas, which is pretty much direct quotes from Christ. And one of them basically says, spirituality is separate from religion, and you do not need a church to be spiritual and talk to God, which directly assaults the money-making religious principles out there of all religions, power and control. So they left that gospel out of the new Bible because it takes away from their power and control, and they couldn't have that. That's my prediction. I could be wrong, and I'll go eat dinner with Satan for eternity because of my wrongness, or I could be right. My perception is, yes, the King James version is the one that we're told to, yeah, that's one. I've heard that story. And like I said, that's the kindergarten version of spirituality on an individual journey. That's why pastors and monks and all these other theologians spend decades studying. They're not reading the Bible over and over and over and over again. They don't have just one book called the Bible. Oh, let's read this. This is the only thing we can study. This is the only thing about theology. This is the only thing about it. No, my God, that is so foolish of a thought to think about. You know what they do? They do the studying that I did. So if you've gone beyond the Bible in your studies, you can maybe better understand where I'm coming from. If you only use the Bible for your studies, I sound like a heretic. But just imagine this. Your pastor's a heretic too, because if he doesn't have at least half as much studies in theologian as I do, he's not a pastor. And oh, by the way, if he is a she is definitely not a pastor. And that is in the Bible. So, what's up, Pete? Or it's meaningful because it was the first mass-produced one out to society, and no one came up with another version like the 88 version, 88 Bible, 88 verse or book verse that the Ethiopians have, that they had for approximately 100 years before the creation of any Bible that Western theologians accept as the Bible, because we discount Ethiopia and their version of the Bible that actually they had before Rome and the Roman nation started persecuting Christians. kind of sort of before they got too bad, because they were taking and they had policies to take Christian refugees in Ethiopia when the Romans were throwing Christians into the Colosseum. What other country did that in the world? Their Bible said to do it. Their Bible is supposedly the same Bible as we have, minus 22 versions, 22 books. And they were doing Christian, Christly things long before our version of Christ came along. And yet their version, 66 books of their version, are the same as ours. Now, when you go into deeper theological studies, other than just the Bible, you will find out the meanings for these things. and again, you will be accountable to God for your understanding personally. Yes, it is. It is very much, Pete, very much an issue. And that is a good book that you got there, you showed me. But it's all about personal relationships and your personal journey and your personal knowledge. I will not be held to the knowledge that Moses had, or Isaac, or Noah. I will not be held to their level of knowledge of the spirituality of Christ. Only my own personal, through my own personal journey. And all of our own personal journeys are exactly that, personal, not the same. So judge not lest ye be judged comes in at that point in time, because each journey is personal for Christ and a spiritual journey of us. I was just throwing names out there. What's up, Mr. Wisco Snacker? I was just throwing famous names out there. William. Actually, I think Isaac Newton on gravity has been proven wrong, by the way. He just, the paperwork hasn't come out yet. Actually, hasn't been proven wrong. A more in-depth theory of gravity has come into play that negates his principles or adds to his principles, making them rudimentary, not elementary. Yeah, okay, I'll tell that to Exxon. They just closed the refinery down here. We've lost 2 refineries in the Bay Area. I think Exxon was one of them. I think Chevron's going to be one too. Uh-oh, I got kitties coming in here. What's up, Mittens? I have a daily kitty cat invasion. Usually I'll have 8 little kitties run in here all at once for about 15 minutes, wanting to play with everything. Then they'll go fall asleep and they won't come in here for the rest of the day, because all the bigger cats kind of retreat to my room because they don't like hanging around with the little kitty cats. Yeah, here's one for you. Langstroth created the whole bee industry, and I've already proved him wrong. So how long will it be? A couple hundred years before Isaac Newton gets proved wrong? It's called advancement and growth and knowledge and technology, bro. And they're finding a new source for gravity that Newton couldn't even conceive of. They are now saying gravity is a wavelength, not a property of a spinning planet, but the planet is spinning because of gravity. That differentiates everything, which makes Isaac Newton kind of sort of wrong. But what he observed was right. But everything else from there is like, hold on, wait, Einstein's fixing to get proven wrong too. What's up, Katie? Actually, I think he's already been proven wrong on several things. And then you got, I'll drop back to Chris Langan. And I already showed that video. I don't need to keep showing it. Smartest man in the world. Yes, there is a God. And he'll break it on down to you better than I can. If you want to have an argument, theological argument with him, you go ahead and do that. Because I'm basically in his camp. And yes, there is a God. Oh, yes, there is a Satan. And he breaks it on down for our physical format, that formatted minds to, as easily as possible, conceive what God is. And he does the best job. And he's not a preacher. Yeah, platinum's going to go up, Jethro. I've been telling people that for years because I saw it. The manipulation's ending because of technological advances are causing China to have to give up control. That and the fact that South Africa is getting crapped on. That's actually the main. South Africa is the reason for platinum for since 2012 or 2011, doing nothing but going down and staying sideways because they signed on with the One Belt Road Initiative with China, and they turned over all their mineral resources to China. They couldn't pay back the loans, and China took over the minings and the mineral rights and all this other crap, and they lowered the price for themselves. What product can you create for 10 years where it costs you $1,100 to $1,300 to make that product and you sell it for $900? Can you stay in business? In what world does that happen without that country going bankrupt? Hey, look at South Africa. They're going bankrupt. Now you put together why they're going bankrupt, and you will find out that it's because they signed up to the One Belt Road Initiative, signing over all their gold mines lost $5 billion over 10 years. How can a gold mine lose $5 billion in 10 years? Oh, yeah, it's Chinese controlled. Oops, my bad. That's how you lose it. That's why every country that signs up with the One Belt Road Initiative ends up going bankrupt. Look at Kenya. Kenya's got a beautiful deep water port owned by China. Kenya's broke because they're bankrupt because they couldn't afford to pay China for it, and China now runs it. They're still just as poor. Ain't got no better. Jobs are shitty. They're bringing in Chinese to run the port, so they got no benefit of it. They got fleeced out of their country for a deep water port, and they're in debt to it and had to go bankrupt because of it. That's the One Belt Road Initiative. That is South Africa. Look at South Africa. As soon as they go bankrupt, the price of fucking platinum is going to fly. And that's good. Well, they don't even have to go bankrupt because Clean Air Metals, a Canadian-based platinum miner, discovered a vein out of the control of the China One Belt Road Initiative. And when they bring it to market, oh, by the way, we have a deficit, so you're going to have to pay their price. They're going to price it a lot higher because they're not going to fucking sell it to you for $900 or $1,000 if it's costing $1,300 to dig out of the ground. They're going to want to make a profit. So you can see platinum going up to about $1,800 to $2,000 soon. Well, Jeffro, the reason why China loaded up on gold is the same reason every other central bank, let's not get this changed up, it's not China. China, we can use the word China because their government, everything is one. In other words, all their banks are central banks of China. The only reason they're buying gold is the same reason other central banks are buying gold, all 187 of them, is because what was it? Basel III. The start of implementation of Basel III starts July 1st, 2025. At that point in time, all central banks, all 187 nations' central banks, have to no less than have 250% more gold, physical gold in their holding to continue to be a central bank and stay within the regulatory framework of the under Basel III, which requires banks to keep their holdings not at 10%, but at 22 to 27% of their debt to gold holdings. So they have to increase 150% the amount of gold they're holding, physical gold they're holding, to stay in compliance. Now, having said that, can I ask you, who's loading up on gold? Retail didn't start loading up on gold until every central bank started buying it, and every precious metal dealer out there wanted to make money and started telling you, oh, the central banks are buying gold. They didn't tell you to stay in compliance so they can keep doing business and stay in compliance with Basel III. They gave you an inflation thing. They gave you some other thing, whatever. But what happens if inflation's going down? Oh, it has. Has gold gone down? No. Huh. Why? Buying pressure of central banks has nothing to do with the economy. It has everything to do with Basel III. Now, after July 1st, July 1st, 2025, they have until June 30th, 2028 to come into full compliance. My estimation is a majority of these central banks have probably already bought up about 80% of the gold they need to stay in compliance, and they'll save the other 20% for the next 3 years till they can come into full compliance. So I think you'll find central banks, i.e. China, gold buying drop. But that's just me. What's up, Silver Shelby Stacker? What's up, Deja Vu? Yeah. I know a lot about that African thing, and that's why I quit doing videos on the Sahel nations, because I see Russia taking over what was the Euro, eco-franc economy of 16 Western African nations under one economic system, money system. I see those 16 countries actually going more towards Russia, not BRICS, more to Russia, which tells me that BRICS is a farce. And I've known that for all along. But hey, what's up, Emilian? Right on. Thank you very much for stopping by and giving a thumbs up. Give a thumbs up, Emilian. Carlos is going to be doing a YouTube channel on how to cook stuff, because he's got to do that, because I'm going to have Travis pressuring to do a YouTube show. Right, man, cooking shows done well, you'll have more subscribers than Ninja. Show him how it's done. Because one commonality between you and 9 billion people on Earth, everybody eats, and they all like eating good food. Not everyone cares about economics. Matter of fact, most people don't care about economics. You got to wake them up to care about economics, and that's a lot harder job than it is to do a cooking show and have people want to eat your food. Woo, 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 deja vu. Now we're talking. Neil's going to make some serious duckage. Because you guys know, I've already showed you, I buy gems. Gems and crystallized osmium. Sheep videos are freaking awesome, dude. I've seen so many, I think it might be goats. They put cute little sweaters on the new baby goats and let them run around. They're better than kitty cat videos, bro. They get lots of hits because they're funny to look and watch. Anything that'll be of value, they're going to add to our economy, because our economy is going America. Everything made in America. And when you got to think about that, what's that saying? What's mega made in America mean? Could it not be that finally, since the DEA and the Justice Departments, as of November 6th of last year, were working to deschedule marijuana from a class 1 to a class 3 felony, which makes it open for industrial and medical usages, could we not presume that the medical cannabis industry is going to grow, obviously, but because it's been there, but another industry we don't talk about that will grow like crazy, and it will affect so many people, and it's going to hit you like a knockout punch from Tyson, is the hemp wood industry that doesn't exist right now. And we can do it without cutting one tree down in America for 1,000 years. And we can make wood twice as strong, mildew, mold, and pest resistant, and flexible. A much better product work. It's called hemp wood. They've already got it. It's just illegal right now. But as soon as the DEA changes changes the scheduling of marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, it opens up the book for that industrial usage. And once they come up with a 2x4 made from hemp, and you have a choice to buy it for the same price as a wood 2x4, but you know that hemp piece of wood is mold resistant, mildew resistant, and pest resistant, meaning no termites, which one are you going to buy? Now you come to find out that all they need is 1,000 square acres of American soil, less than 0.1% of Nevada, to grow enough hemp to provide the wood for America for a year, and it's renewable. We can grow it again next year, tear it down, grow it again, and keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. And we create a new wood industry that's better than wood in America. And we don't touch our trees. We don't cut them down. Bye-bye tree huggers, lawsuits, environmental this, environmental that. Cleans up our court systems a hell of a lot, streamlines a lot of shit. A lot of good things will happen, along with other stuff that's going to happen. That could be a possibility. There you go. See what I'm saying? You should videotape that, Jeffro. Do a little 30-second shorts, man. You'll get hella hits. And we're also created of the universe. As you'll find out that one thing that humans have that are also found on asteroids and out of space, planet Earth itself, is mycelia. We have a thinnest layer of mycelia underneath our skin. What's up, Indy? Mycelia is also found in the ground that we walk on, and mycelia is also found in rocks and out of space. So we are made of the same substance that's already out of space and of this planet, showing that we are made of something greater than us, in my opinion. And it's a scientific proof that I can give for that. I mean, I've always known I don't need the scientific proof, but it adds to it, and more proof will come as we get more intelligent about how to think and what questions to ask, and quit asking divisive questions and start asking intuitive questions that'll benefit society by making us ask more questions as we benefit ourselves through obtained and shared knowledge, and not hoarded knowledge. Back to the Catholic Church. Shared knowledge. Sorry, I'm taking a hit. That happens on my channel. Y'all know it by now. Excuse me. Also, a lot of coughing happens because when you smoke pot, you cough. But what I can do is mute myself. Indy, you need to get up here and mute me. I don't like muting myself. I'd rather you do it. You'd have more fun at it. Hold on, I'm fixing some more tea, so my voice is going to get lower. All right, so what other subjects do we want to talk about? You know, I got a great video on Erich Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity and how it's playing out right now, today, in front of our eyes, and we are willing participants. But I decided not to show it because I don't want people to realize that we all got infected with stupid. But we all got infected with stupid. They're calling it woke, whatever. What it was, and I've said this on my videos before, it was like the browncoats. And if you understand history, the browncoats came before the Nazi regime. They had the browncoats. That's when they were psychologically manipulating the population to fall under a mindset that genocide is good and acceptable. And therefore, we have the letters or the theory of stupidity by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And he saw it firsthand, and he broke it down. And we've actually just experienced that in our world. We just lived through it or are living through it. Yeah, I know it pleased Indy to hear that I wanted her up here to mute me. I knew that would make her happy. Of course, now, getting a little sexist here. Wouldn't that make every woman happy if she could mute mute guys around her? Come on. That's like fucking number 6 on their button wish list of which buttons they could have and press. Make him shut up. Make him take out the trash. Make him do the lawn. Oh, sweet. Thank you. Yeah, it's no big deal. Although what is a big deal, Pete, for the first time in a year, instead of losing hours, I actually gained 120 hours. I was down to like, what was it? 2,090 or 1,990 hours, because I've been keep going down. I went from like 2,500. I kept going down. I was like, what the hell am I doing? I gained like 120 hours. I was like, holy shit, the worm has turned. So hopefully I'll be gaining some hours instead of losing them. Not that I care, but it's cool to see. Obviously, anytime you put any time in anything, you want to see succeed. But I didn't do this for money. But I do like knowing that more people are watching, because apparently that means I'm saying stuff that's relevant or of some, at least, entertainment value. But what's definitely happened is I end up giving a perspective that's mine. And hopefully people can appreciate that, because I am a weird son of a bitch. But it takes all kinds to make this world right. Yeah, I know you did, Pete, because I ain't seen none of them sheep video. I saw like 2, and then it ain't none. I was like, he's putting up solar panels or fucking with bees or something, digging a hole, putting in a foundation. You got a lot of work to do down there, bro. I can understand. I'm not going to be doing that many videos here in July, actually, when I start work. How about I'm going to start as soon as I figure out how to. I've got a discount code for Ninja's real estate courses. Oh, I didn't get the notification, Pete. But I've got a link for a discount to Ninja's housing courses, everything to do with the housing market. I need to figure out how to do that and put it in the link in the description below. So, and I also found out I have a PayPal account I didn't realize I had. Apparently, I started a couple years ago. I've been getting emails with. I just got one for the whole year of 2024, where there was 0 activity every month. I wasted my time looking through it, make sure no one else was using my account, because I forgot I had it. I'll probably put that down there too once I figure it out. Nah, selling courses isn't my way to make money. I have spoke with Travis, and he does know what I'm doing, and he's like totally impressed with it. So it's all good. I'm going in the right direction, just not his. I'm going in my direction. Like I said, I will be selling once I figure out how to put his discount link. I'll be selling his real estate courses. I think it's like 50% off or some shit like that. So that way, when people get these outrageous prices, I'll be like, Go to his administrative mods page. I sell them for half off. I got a good discount. Yeah, Pete, the good old thing about PayPal is they are interested in becoming, or they were looking into what it would take to comply with the Congress's new law to where they could create a stable coin backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar, just like the 1836 to 1862, when the Congress gave banks the right to create their own dollars to compete for the American consumer's business. One of the most prosperous times in America. They're going to recreate that, but in a digital format, but they're going to mix it with actual dollar. And I believe it's called an M2 money supply. We're supposed to get hyperinflation from all these dollars coming back into America. Well, there's and I gave a list of 7 of the companies. I think there's 12 companies interested in doing this. If say 10 of them are interested in starting a stable coin and using it as a dollar bill in America and being accepted by all businesses in America as an acceptable dollar bill or token that's an acceptable dollar bill, and they have to back it 1-for-1 with the dollar, and 10 of those companies start up and they only get like 20 billion. Now just make $50 billion they buy so they can do 50 billion tokens. That's $500 billion. How much money is coming back to America in this M2 supply? I think it'll be eaten up. And I think the larger companies actually probably buy more of those dollars. And I think that's one way America is going to hide the hyperinflationary scenario that's being presented by people when they say all this is going to be flowing back into America from what's going on. I argue with that point. I'm sorry. Congress has already made moves to prove what I'm saying will happen. It's just a matter of it happening. So that way you can say, oh yeah, Neil was right. He said it was going to happen. No, Neil told you what Congress did and what companies have already expressed interest in. It's a foregone conclusion what the results of that are. You just got to put it together. You have 10, 12, 14, 15 companies creating a stable coin, and they're going to need $1 for every stable coin. Well, how big are they? How much money do they want to make? Because when they roll out, they're going to be making money. If they're going to be used as currency here in America, they're going to be making crap loads of money. So they're probably going to buy crap loads of dollars to present in the form of a digital, their company's digital currency as a form of currency here in America. It's not going to get away from, it's going to be the beginning of the change of the US dollar, but it's not getting away from it. It's sidestepping the hyperinflation that's going to be coming back from the economic scenario that people are presenting right now of hyperinflation coming back through, I believe it's called M2 money supply rolling back into the nation. It's going to get eaten up by these companies. They're going to eat up all that money. They're going to need to. And that's how America stays great again. We're going to be great for so long. Yeah, is there going to be pain? Yes, the stupid people. As John Wayne, a.k.a. Marion Morris, said, a famous quote, and I give him total credit for this, life's hard. It's even harder if you're stupid. So just don't be stupid. Life's hard enough. We'll get through this. The world's not going to end. It's just a big change coming. It was a big change back in 1860, 1836 when they did it. Yeah, we weren't under a world scenario then like we are now, but it's very similar, almost exactly, just in a digital format. So having said that, go back in history, see what the hell happened, see what businesses, see what the environment was like, see what people did, see what they did to make money under that environment, and position yourself appropriately. You're probably going to be freaking rich. Long-term, generational wealth. And that's where I see what Trump is calling the golden age. I actually see it. And I'm going to position myself for it. In a year, we'll see who's right. I hope like hell you guys are. I hope you guys all succeed greatly off of listening to me, because I know I'm right. I've already read the documents. I've had the time to read the documents, the interest to waste my time looking for those documents to read. As anyone else? So I'm just bringing you information I have gathered. This isn't coming out my booty. It's just not believable. I'm sure it wasn't believable in 1836 when they got rid of the US dollar and banks created. I'm sure there was a lot of turmoil for the first 6 months to a year. But after that, everyone got wealthy, because at that point in time, these financial institutions, just like back in 1836 to 1862, they're going to be competing for us as customers. So things are going to flip. Instead of mortgages being 7 or 8%, savings accounts are going to be 7 or 8%. And instead of savings accounts being 1 or 2%, mortgages are going to be 1 or 2%. Because each one of these financial institutions is going to be competing for you as a customer, meaning they're going to give you more benefits and charge you less. That's beneficial to every American out there. So, being able to save, and I don't know how old all you guys are, but I'm sure some of you should be able to remember in economics, they said after 7 years, your money should double on like a 6%, because 6% the first year adds to your total, and over 7 years, I think your money. So if you have $100 at 6%, over 7 years, it should be $200. And that's how the economy used to work. It's going to work like that again. And that means we're getting out of being a consumption nation and going back to a manufacturing nation. And to give evidence of that happening, the Shipbuilding Act is being fast-tracked through Congress. And what that means is most of our ports are going to be retrofitted, and we have to build 200 to 250 1,000-foot long vessels for national security reasons. So it's going to happen, because we are short that many vessels in our merchant marine fleet, which by law can be used to support the Navy in times of crisis. And they are not up to national standards. So it has to happen. It's guaranteed it's going to happen. Money will be made for that to happen. That will come through fruition. So there are going to be 200, 1,000-foot plus long boats created here in America by Americans for some sort of corporate use here in America. Don't know how, don't know when, don't care. I know it's going to happen. So, what's up, Knackers? So if you think that things are going to be bad, change your glasses, baby. Because you don't want to be in a perspective where things are bad for you because you weren't positioned correctly to take advantage of the good times coming. I've shown you guys I had that TWIC card. It's let me pull it out, see what the fuck it says here. Transportation Worker Identification Credential. Not card, credential. It's good till February 2028. With this card I already got, any dock in America, any port of entry, any airport, anything like that, I'm already federally cleared security wise to go work at. It takes 2 to 3 months to get that card. So when this work comes available, with my experiments, I probably will get a superintendent position because I can walk on the job and say, yes, I'm qualified right now, not only to be on this job, but to run the job. And I hand them all my certifications that I already have because I knew this was coming, because I positioned myself for it. And you guys will be working for someone who, like me, who was already ready and took that superintendent position. That's what I'm saying, preparedness. So when things are bad for everyone else, when work is bad for everyone else, if you're going to ask me, is work going to be bad for me? No, it's not going to be bad for me. And not only do that, I've also had my mind working where I created a couple things that I'm going to work on to continue and make money off of, to where I might not have to take that superintendent job. What are you yelling about? What? Get your keys. That's what you had them for. Sorry, Platina was meowing. Her kitties went to sleep and she wants to play with them. Big problem at Neil's house. Exactly. Short-term pain, long-term gain. And if you position yourself properly, it's not even short-term pain. It's short-term gain for long-term gain. Because as I just described, if you get that TWIC card, you're in, I mean, superintendent, that's the position I could take because I've been in the industry for a while. But if you get that card, you get that job the first day. Other people who apply for that job are going to have to wait 2 to 3 months to get that card. That means you got 2 to 3 months experience getting to know everything, the layout and everything. Who's going to be the first foreman? You. Because you know everything. You got 2 or 3 months on these people of building the relationships, establishing relationships, showing them you can learn and you know what you're doing. You're the foreman. You're making the good money. You're not getting laid off. Positioning. What's that, Sean? Yeah, also with that TWIC card, if you get that TWIC card and you buy your airline tickets online, if you give that TWIC card number, you bypass airport security. You walk straight into the airport, show the airplane people your ticket, show them the TWIC card, and if you put the number on the TWIC card, it'll show up in their system, and they'll have a TEA agent or one of their people hooked up with TWA or whatever the fuck they're called, and they'll walk you straight around where people take off their shoes and stuff. They'll walk you straight around into the area that you need to be in. You bypass all that crap. That's a benefit. You don't smell stinky feet standing in line for a half hour at the airport if you get the card, because you've already been pre-screened and pre-approved. Lots of benefits. It costs like 150, 125, 150 bucks. Well worth it if you travel, or again, want to have a good job here very shortly, because Congress has already passed the Shipbuilding Act law. It's going to happen. So, jobs will be there. You can either say, hey, I told you so, or, wow, I wish I would have listened. Hey, I told you so. Ones are going to be making money. You're going to be foreman. You're going to be freaking rocking and rolling, bringing in the big paycheck every week. And imagine if there's no federal income tax. Whoa! Talk about golden times. Oh, my God. Increase your paycheck to 20%. When's the last time you got a 20% raise, and what did that do to the economy? Yeah, I don't think economists have thought of what that'll do to the economy, but I imagine if everyone that works in America got an average of 20% more on their paycheck overnight just because they're not paying federal tax, I imagine you would have what's called an economic boom, because a 2 to 3% increase in Social Security changes the GDP, and not as many people are on Social Security, pay taxes, work. And actually more people work that don't pay tax because they don't make enough. So it wouldn't really affect them. Oh my God, they're already hurting. So they haven't worked themselves out of that position. They're not going to be helped by that because they don't pay taxes now. But the rest of us who have worked our way up from flipping burgers when we were in high school to real careers for real money. Those are will be benefit big time. See, Pete, you're a fucking hobo, man. No, no, Pete's got his own crap going on. He's been self-employed for 25 years, not unemployed. You need to rephrase that. That's misleading a statement. You've been self-employed for over 25 years now. Make people feel bad for you. You're a smart motherfucker. Just to give you an example of how smart Pete is, he's trying to make you feel bad for him. I've been unemployed. He had a company where he made rocket engine parts for SpaceX. The man's damn near genius. Total, but he does live like a hobo. I love it. No, Pete's smart as hell. I got Pete right now in the company. I'm starting my catamaran, new design catamaran company. Pete's doing the leg work on not electronic part, on the computer end of the company, doing the virtual walkthrough, getting schematics. By the way, Pete, since I got you here, the Maritime Academy is right down the road. There's like 3, I think, maritime academies in America. So once I get back to work and get some money, I'm going to send the idea over them for them to do the architectural engineering for the platform that you developed for me. And then I'll get that back from them for us to do in a virtual walkthrough design. So I think that will speed that whole process up, because I just have the benefit. They're like 2 miles down the road, and there's only 3 maritime academies, and they teach naval architecture. It'd be like a student study program for them, or I could hire a couple of them, as an extra project. I'll go talk to their teachers and say, I've got an extra project I'd like to pay some of you guys to work on. If you could oversee it and, give them a couple thousand and have them do it. Because I need to increase that down the road. I need to move that caboose down the road a little bit. Yeah, it needs to come through fruition. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. You got that right. Dude. And you got a person in chat right now when I talk about a company that's going to be started. He's going to be part of it. This catamaran that we're coming out with will be like nothing you have ever imagined in a catamaran or yacht catamaran in your life. It's going to be like the fucking Jetsons, baby. You've been wanting the Jetsons your whole life, come from cartoon to reality. Well, we're not going to give you a flying car, but we'll give you something that's Jetsons. It's going to be awesome. So what else are we going to talk about? Yes, there's going to be lots of incentives. I've already spoke about it. This job I'm finally getting after almost a year and a half. Well, that year and a half when I had a job, I brought home like $1,800, and we've got a raise on our contract since then. And part of the contract is they re-added subsistence and travel pay. And because this new job is going to last 6 months, I'll get the subsistence and travel pay, which comes up to almost $100 a day. If I work 6 days a week, I'll be bringing home close to $2,800 a week to $3,000 a week take home. So it's a dramatic increase, and there's going to be lots of overtime, and I'm going to work it because we get actual time and a half and double time out here at being union, which will also increase that check value up to get it up to that amount, because the overtime is like 18 hours a week overtime, almost guaranteed. And that's going to be awesome. And that's going to advance a lot of the projects that Pete and I have. Yeah, that's exactly it, Pete. It's going to be the Jetsons, bro, on the water, man. You're going to be like, oh my God, it's here. Finally, we're starting to see the Jetsons come to life. It's going to be awesome. And then there's that, you're going to do the design for me for that mobile apiary when I get the money up for that. So I can just turn it over to a manufacturer and have them crank out a couple for me. Have all the schematics and stuff. Well, thank you very much, Jeffro. You know, Jeffro, let's see, hold on, wait. June, July. In August, I'll be working, so my live stream will probably go back just to Sunday. But I might do a short of my gym when I finish it. And you'll see it. You'll be able to get a visual of what I call my genius in design and thought processes being brought through fruition in a physical object that can be viewed and understood and seen as 100% different than what you've ever seen before. And hopefully it'll take the market by storm too. But now when people see my mobile apiary, and knowing that, hey, I just changed Langstroth's system, it's been around for over 150 years and I made it better, pretty much no one gives a fuck. It's like, humanity. Wow, we're weird. But if I get money off these gyms and this other stuff, I can promote my system more, and eventually it'll take. It's a different style of business, but it'll eventually take and make money as well. Yeah, and crystallized osmium. That's another thing. I'm on the designer team of the crystallized osmium cryptocurrency coin that'll be coming out, I think, in August. Which is kind of cool. Don't know too much about what I stepped into, but I stepped into it as usual, so what the hell, right? As I've stated on other live streams, I'm pretty good at jumping the deep end feet first time, and learning what the hell I got into after I hit the fucking water. Taking over the I'm Fusty cell tower. I know that they'll probably take over a lot of the. I don't even really see that much need for wire industry transmission once we get better at the satellite, and because I think next level of technology will be lasers fired up at satellites, and satellites transmitting information and shooting a laser back down to like central hubs, and then from that central hub you'll have your wired and wireless systems. But I think laser technology, because they found that you can transfer a lot more information through a laser beam and faster and more accurate than even Wi-Fi, and more accurate, obviously. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you need. Yeah, exactly. That's why I said your main hub. It'll be sent through main hub. The laser beam will be sent down to a main hub, a distribution hub, and sent up from that same distribution hub. And those distribution hubs will be all around the world. Most likely, where they're going to be building all of these processing server warehouses, where the micronuclear reactors will be to produce power and cooling agents for those process servers. Probably some of those will be where the laser technology of information transfer to satellites will take place from, because that'll be a main hub, as Jokester 93, Joke 3 Stir 93 has said. What's up, Gerald? Yeah, the thing about microwaves, I actually have a half-hour video on how you can make like just a basic fucking Viking barbarian looking shield that'll defend against microwave. So you can block microwave, and I don't think depending on the frequency of the laser, some lasers are unaffected by a lot of physical things, for lack of a better word off the top of my head. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Actually, it's some cool shit I just saw. I'm very interested in how this is going to interact with the eye. They have a contact lens that allows you to see the infrared spectrum. And I'm wondering how that'll interact with our brain, because we're not designed as a species. Our optical nervous system isn't it designed to see the infrared spectrum. Like, yeah, you can put like binoculars up to your eyes, but you take them down. You know what I'm saying? It's not a permanent thing. To where it is cool, but that's where I'm very interested, because if you stick a contact lens in your eye, it's not permanent, but it's not as easy as just taking the binoculars off of your eyes. So I'm wondering how it'll, and I'm sure they've already done studies before I saw the information on this. I'm sure the studies have already been done on what effect it'll have, and how you'll actually see. What will your in particular vision be like when we can see in the infrared spectrum? Because I'm actually looking at maybe buying a pair, because that would be cool, man. Talk about walking around at night and you'd be like, someone's sneaking up behind everyone else. You'd be like, hey, what you doing sneaking up behind us? Because you'll see the infrared spectrum and they'll be like, what? That's a game changer for personal defense, bro. Big time. I've had people sneak up behind me in similar scenarios where I've had to rely on my ears, hearing, movement, noise. I'd loved if I had an optical advantage. That would have been freaking awesome. Takes away all gully suits and everything, bro. No need for a gully suit if you have contacts that you can see the infrared. Yeah, I actually have a video. I'll probably show that video. This guy shows the simplistic things you can do to block microwave transmissions. Like they have these crowd control microwave things. There's actually little shields that you can put simple products over that'll block the microwave to where it doesn't actually infiltrate or affect you the way they perceive it will in a crowd control environment. Yeah, and that's how they'll probably do the laser the same way, except for they got to build new buildings to house the newer laser transfer technology. And like I said, it'll probably be near these new, since they're building new warehouses for processing centers, that's where a majority of information is anyhow. So why not just build one of those centers right beside it to transfer? But I don't know how far the technology's come along. I imagine our government is already using laser transfer of information, because it's obviously I use the example of like a radio wave. Voyager, for example, I think in the 80s passed by a television a television transmission. It was a television wavelength that the Voyager passed through. It was in 1980s, early 80s, I think. And what it was it captured a video of Hitler giving a speech in 1942, and it was in the 80s that Voyager, because Voyager was speeding out through space, going faster and faster and faster and faster, and it caught up with the television wavelength that was sent out. That just proves that signals continuously go outward. So what that proves, and this is scary, is every piece of information that's been sent through electronic means has already been intercepted by the Voyager. Because if they could have intercepted a TV transmission from 1943 in the 80s, a radio signal from your phone or a phone transmission of a wireless phone emits 360 all around. That means that wavelength's already gone out there and they've already captured it. So you truly could, if you had a computer that could diagnose all the information gathered from those wavelengths going out from Earth, you just send a rocket up to gather portions of those wavelengths as it goes through them, and you could recreate decades of verbatim people's lives. Yeah, that's a heavy thought process. AI will probably do that shit. Yeah, radio, man. That's why they went off that bandwidth, man. And they went to the digital bandwidth. And the next most secure, and I was leading to security, is the laser. Because laser has a beginning and an end point, unless you're just randomly shooting it out. And in which case, it's still someone has to intercept that laser. And it's a limited scope of time of the laser shooting that ends. It's not a permanent thing. And it ends at a facility that accepts it, whether it's a satellite or an Earth-based facility. So the availability of that type of thing happening on a laser transmission is a lot more secure. And that's one thing that's always bothered me. If there are aliens out there, they are probably tripping on us, brah. They are probably. What's the Voyager? Oh my God. Hold on a second. How old are you, Jokester? Oh yeah, okay. You weren't around. Hold on a second. Present, share screen. A quick Wikipedia for everybody. Let me get back over here and main screen this here. Full screen layout. Basically, the Voyager program is an American scientific program that employs 2 interstellar probes, and that shows the trajectory. If you can see Voyager 2 at the bottom end of the screen and Voyager 1 at the top left, they send them out in 2 different directions. They were launched in 1977 to take advantage of favorable planetary alignment to explore the last giants of Jupiter and Saturn, and that was the extent of their perceived life. And then one of them, I think Voyager 2, was supposed to have flown by Neptune in someone's anus, probably Uranus and Neptune. And after the partial flybys were complete, they were sent off to deep space. And this was not part of their original mission. They were supposed to have already died. Their power source is supposed to have died, but they haven't. And they've still been sending back information as much as 2019, actually even earlier, later. They've been sending back information past our solar system. It's kind of kick-ass that we're getting all this intricate information from a rocket satellite that's supposed to have already died. Yeah, the first one was Gold Disc. The second was more to inform us. It's still interesting. As a matter of fact, the most I've been keeping up with it, and I haven't been able to validate this, but apparently Voyager received some sort of signal that might be perceived as stay on Earth, but I need to validate that, and I haven't had time to because I'm not real interested. I don't think it's real. I think it was someone just doing a clickbait thing, and I didn't even pay attention, and that was my thought when I got it. Hey, you have a great one, Pete. That is my Gerald. That's our catamaran dude. I have several screws loose because if they're too tight, you don't have blood flow, and you end up following the man. Actually, I won't mention the frogs I see run over in the road because they're too slow. Yeah, there's a lot. I go off intuition a lot when I see crazy shit like that. I'll be like, yeah, I doubt it. Because stuff like that, if it made it to you, it made it to mainstream media, and I ain't heard it from them. So, of course, I don't listen to mainstream media, so they might have been talking about it. I don't know. Yeah, Michelangelo had a few screws loose until they figured out he was actually intelligent, and then they started hiring him for different nations' defense industries. But at first, he started out crazy too. So did Bill Gates. He started out crazy. So did Warren Buffett. So did Hitler. So did Napoleon. So did Alexander the Great. Oh shit! There's so many people out there that are great that had a few screws loose. So the question is, did they have a few screws loose? Or are your screws too tight to keep you from achieving the greatness that you could achieve because you have such a screw tightened look at things, too narrow, maybe perspective. And the narrower your perspective, the more right you have to be because less chance you have of being wrong and hitting the wall instead of the door. No, I didn't say that. You said that. I said people with great minds. And I'm sorry, anyone who has the ability to take a 10-year plan to take over half the world, that's a great mind. I don't care what the hell he did with it. Anyone who's got the intellect to put 4 other people together and come up with a plan for 10, maybe 15-year plan, depending on what starting point you want to give them. They met in jail after World War I. They were all Himmler, Hitler, Hess. They were all in jail. They get out. They start to fucking get part of the brown coats program going, get into different areas of politics and whatnot, and then take over half the world. Yeah, evil as fuck. I'll give you, they're evil as fuck. Ooh, evil, 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 evil. But you know what? Alexander killed just as many people, and they call him great. They call him Alexander the Great. Look at how many people he killed. So it's all perception. That's why I said great mind. Because only great minds can take over half the world. And the people I just mentioned, most of them took over half the world. So they're either the stupidest fuckers in the world, which makes us idiots, because we ain't done a thousandth of what they did. So if they're stupid, we're idiots. And if you want to be self-degrading, you can look at it that way. I choose not to. Or you can say, yeah, no, they were great minds that had bad philosophies. Some of them better philosophies. Some of them history looks at more better than others. For example, like Alexander the Great, looked at as a great leader. Yeah, but he had a slave army too. He had a lot of slaves. So how great was he? If we're going to condemn, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln for having slaves, well, why can't we condemn all the other people for having slaves? Why are we selecting our feelings of history to make ourselves feel good now on someone's show? It's all in your perspective. But you definitely don't want to go intellect to intellect with me. I will tear you apart. So please keep the bad comments to yourself, and don't put words in my mouth. I'm not stupid. But thank you for the conversation. Oh, it's okay, Indy. I have fun with these people. They're around. And if you show them that they're incompetent at being trolls, what the hell else are they going to do in life, right? Yeah, you just bring knowledge to people like that. They either get totally stupid, say something, and the mods will get rid of them because they were aggressively abusive with their language, or they will be quiet and actually realize, hey, maybe I'm a problem, not a solution. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Anyhow. Someone got him. Oh, it was Indy. See, I'm on StreamYard. I can't see which one of you guys takes care of things. Thank you, Indy. I have to go over to YouTube and look. But yeah, everyone's got an opinion. That's why we do these shows. Everyone has their own opinion. And as usual, I mean, if you got the balls and want to be a troll, you can come up here. I got the link pinned. But if they don't want to do that, then they're not. I mean, my feelings don't get hurt over it. I'll intellectually tear them apart. Even if they do go radical and jump from point to point and make no logic, I still throw out logic at them. Logic will kill them all the time. Logic and truth. Logic and truth usually pan out unless the bad guys win, in which case history is written by the victor. So you got to watch out what history you're reading. Who was in charge when that was written? Make sure it's more factual than false. But for example of that, and I wish I remembered the exact king's name, and I wish I remembered the exact date. I believe it's, I'm going to give a vast range date between like the 300 and, well, hold on a second here. Islam wasn't around. Well, I'll still give the date. From 300 to 1000 AD in Acre over in the Middle East, there was a king. He was a Christian king, and he had his coin minted, gold and silver and copper coins minted with his image on it. And according to another religion that's popular nowadays, their religion owned that area of the world and the city of Acorn for 100 years before and after the minting of that Christian king's coin. But they've never answered the question of, if their history is true, why did they allow for the minting of a Christian king's coin that you had already defeated? So you can actually learn history from coinage. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. Joanne, if you think I did that, you are very, very, very poorly educated, because you have changed words that you can actually go back in history and replay and hear, and you are misrepresenting facts, which makes you a bad person. You are intentionally misrepresenting facts to make yourself relevant, which makes you sort of irrelevant, doesn't it? Even into your own self, you have to look in the mirror and say, wow, if I'm having to misrepresent facts to make myself relevant, what am I doing? What usefulness am I serving? You know, everyone can be positive or negative. It's freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. And that's why this world's not perfect, because we do have freedom of choice. And freedom of choice means that at different ages, and this also goes back to reading your Bible. At age 10, you read a passage. At age 50, you read a passage. It means totally different things. Because as you progress through life, you learn, evolve, and grow. And you do that mentally too with knowledge. So if you read the same passage you read 20 years before, it has to mean something different, or else you didn't grow. So it's just a baseline of material to read to get to gauge your level of understanding throughout your life. You can learn more about religion if you go past the Bible. It's just a baseline start. It's like elementary school stuff. Okay, let me go over here and see what happened. Yep, someone deleted her. Nope, that was Frog. Who deleted her? Wow, okay. Indy's on a roll. You go, girl. You batting 1,000. Doesn't mean I'm going to not mess with you. But anyhow, I've been going for a while. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. Seems like we're starting to get some trolls coming in here. And I appreciate each and every one of you coming by and chit-chatting. More interaction is better. I always give my opinion, even if you don't like it. And then I try and explain it to a point where at least you can understand where I'm coming from. And it all is based down to personal life journey. No two are the same. So if you don't understand, that actually is a good thing. I appreciate that, Annie. All right. Well, you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your week. And Make it positive. Be the best you can be today.